All right, so get this. We're going deep, really deep today, into Canada's provincial nominee program.
The PNP.
The one and only.
Okay.
But we're not messing around with the basics here.
No.
Nope, we're going behind the curtain. Like, those government guides, the ones immigration officials actually use.
Ah, I see where you're going with this.
Exactly, to see how they size up those business and entrepreneur applications.
So it's like getting inside their heads.
Totally. They practically lay out, well, what they're looking for, what sets off alarm bells.
And probably how they try to trip people up, too.
Oh, yeah, they have these questions that really dig into, like, if a business is legit.
So think of this like getting a hold of their playbook.
Exactly. And that's why we're calling this a deep dive. So if you're even thinking about starting a business in Canada.
This is for you.
Yeah. It's like a cheat sheet, but not for, cheating.
Of course not.
It's more like a guide, a way to navigate the system.
And to do it the right way. So the PNP, right? It's all about attracting immigrants who can actually, contribute to Canada's economy.
Make a difference.
Exactly. And each province gets to pick and choose who they want based on what they need, like their own little wish list.
Really? So it's not a free-for-all?
Oh, no. A province might be all about tech startups right now. Or maybe they're trying to boost their manufacturing.
So they're very specific. Interesting.
They are. And there are like two main paths. You got your base nominations.
Base nominations?
Yeah. And then there are enhanced ones.
Oh.
Enhanced nominations are all tied to express entry. That's a whole other thing, really.
Maybe another deep dive later.
Definitely. But today, we're sticking with the base nominations. They're a bit broader, apply to more types of businesses.
Gotcha. Seems like there's a lot to unpack here.
Oh, there is. And here's a big one. The provinces can nominate you, but...
There's a but.
Big time.
Yeah.
The final word on whether you get permanent residency, that's up to the federal government.
Ah, so it's a two-step dance then.
Exactly. The province nominates you, but the feds.
They have the final say.
Exactly. Specifically, Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It is. We just call it IRCC.
IRCC, much easier. All right, so if you're going for the business entrepreneur stream, there's one thing you absolutely have to prove.
You have to show them.
Convince them that you can...
Become economically established. In Canada, of course.
So it's not enough to just, have money.
Nope. You got to show them you can make it work in the Canadian market.
They want to see action.
They do. And here's where it gets, the guides warn you about passive investment.
Passive investment. Sounds ominous.
It is. Basically, they're saying don't even think about just parking your money here.
So you can't be a silent partner.
No way. You have to be involved, running the business, actually contributing to the province's economy.
So, hands-on.
Absolutely. And speaking of things they don't want to see, the guides are very clear. No immigration-linked investment schemes.
Immigration-linked investment schemes. That's a mouthful.
It is, but it basically means people trying to dress up their immigration goals as business ventures, trying to sneak in the back door.
So the government's cracking down on that.
Big time. They're serious about making sure the PNP attracts real entrepreneurs, not just people looking for a quick way in.
They want the real deal.
They do. Which brings us to everyone's favorite paperwork.
Paperwork. Every entrepreneur's dream. Right.
Right. But look, it matters. It has to be right. We're talking applications, schedules, proof of language skills, background checks.
Oh my, it never ends.
Pretty much. And you got to be really careful with a couple of things. First, declaring your net worth and where your money comes from.
They want to know where every penny came from.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Any discrepancies, anything that looks even a little off.
Red flag.
Big one. And then there's this form called Schedule 4A.
Schedule 4A?
Yeah, it's like your financial autobiography, all your business experience, what you're planning to do in Canada, how you got your assets.
They want to know everything.
And here's the catch. The info you put on that form has to match what you told the province and IRCC.
So you can't tell three different stories.
Nope. Any inconsistencies, even if they're honest mistakes.
Red flag city.
Exactly. Delays, rejections. It's a mess.
So no pressure.
Right. Well, a little pressure is good. Keeps things honest.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So first, your application goes to the case processing agents, CPAs.
CPAs. Like the accountants?
No. These are immigration officials. They do the initial screening. They verify everything. Identity, where you live, work experience, money, the whole 9 yards.
So they're making sure you're the real deal.
Exactly. And get this. They have this note template. They write down their first impressions. It's amazing. You can see how they analyze things, what catches their eye.
Sneak peek behind the scenes. I love it.
Right. But that's just the start. If you get past them, then your application goes to the case processing officer, the CPO.
Uh-oh. Sounds serious.
Very. They make the final decision.
So the stakes just got higher.
Oh, yeah. And the CPO, well, let's just say they dig even deeper.
We'll have to save that for part 2.
Definitely. So remember that Schedule 4A, the one we talked about? That's like your financial autobiography.
Oh, yeah. The one where they basically want to know every financial decision you've ever made.
Well, it's even more than that, really. It's like, think of it as the story of your whole journey as an entrepreneur, but like through the lens of money. It's not enough to just show you have the money. You have to explain how you earned it and managed it and how it connects to what you want to do in Canada.
So they want to see the whole picture, not just a snapshot.
Exactly. They're looking for a story that makes sense, from your old businesses to your assets now, and most importantly, to the business you're proposing in Canada.
So they're saying, prove you can handle this.
Right. And don't forget, it all has to match up. What you put on that Schedule 4A has to be the same story you told the province and IRCC.
No changing the story halfway through.
Nope. Honesty is key, especially with immigration stuff. They're experts at spotting things that don't add up.
So let's talk about that passive investment thing. They seem really serious about that.
Oh, they are. The PNP, it's for people who are going to roll up their sleeves and work, not just park their cash in Canada.
So what exactly does active involvement look like to them?
They want to see you in the business every day, making decisions, managing people, helping the company grow.
No, sitting on a beach somewhere, collecting checks.
Definitely not. The more you can show that you're hands-on, passionate about the business, the better. They want to see you're adding value to the Canadian economy.
Now, what about those immigration-linked investment schemes they mentioned? What are those exactly?
Basically, it's people trying to get into Canada by pretending to start a business.
So, like, faking it.
Yeah, kind of. They come up with these, like, unrealistic business plans, inflate the numbers, promise big returns if you invest, and help them get sponsored for immigration.
Sounds risky.
It is, for everyone involved.
Yeah.
And the government is cracking down on it hard.
Makes sense. They don't want people taking advantage of the system. So how do they tell a real business proposal from a fake one? What are the red flags?
Well, if you don't have any experience in that kind of business, that's a big one. And they're going to go through your financials with a fine-tooth comb, looking for anything that seems fishy.
So you can't just, like, make things up.
Nope. They do their homework. They check everything. They want to be absolutely sure it's legit.
Okay, let's dive into the actual documents you need for a PNP application. It seems like a ton of paperwork.
It can be, but it makes sense if you break it down. First, you have the basic application forms. Personal info, declarations, that kind of thing, like the IMM 008 and the IMM 5669.
Sounds pretty standard so far.
Then you have forms that are specific to the business stream, like Schedule 4. That's where you explain the business you want to start and how it fits with what the province needs.
And of course, that's Schedule 4A we talked about. All the financial stuff.
Exactly. That's a big one. You'll also need to prove you can speak English or French well enough to run a business in Canada.
Makes sense. You got to be able to communicate. And I'm guessing they want those background checks too.
Oh, absolutely. They'll run your name through all the databases, make sure you're not a criminal mastermind or anything.
Right. What about proving who you are? Like your ID and if you're married or not?
You need your passport, obviously. And then things like marriage certificates, divorce papers, that sort of thing. They're building a whole profile on you, basically.
They want to know everything.
Pretty much. Oh, and don't forget the fees. Those can add up depending on which province you're applying to.
The financial joys of immigration. But it sounds like you really can't mess around with any of this. One little mistake could ruin everything.
It could. It's worth going over everything twice, 3 times even. Make sure you haven't missed anything. And honestly, if you're feeling lost, get a professional to help you. An immigration consultant or a lawyer.
Good advice. So we've talked about the paperwork, the red flags, all that. But what about the case processing officer? The CPO, that's where the rubber meets the road, right?
It is. They have the final say. And the guides, well, they actually tell you a bit about how they make those decisions, the kind of questions they ask, what they're looking for. It's pretty fascinating.
Okay, so we're back, and we're tackling the final part of this PNP deep dive. We've talked about the paperwork, the red flags, all that. But what about the case processing officer? The CPO.
Right, the CPO. They're the ones making the big decisions.
Yeah, they decide if your application gets that provincial nomination. And from the looks of these guides, These CPOs are tough. They ask some really pointed questions.
They want to see how committed you are to the province, and if your business plan actually holds water.
Yeah, they're not just taking your word for it.
Nope, they're looking for proof. They want to see that you understand the market, that you've done your research, and that you're really serious about building a life there, not just getting a visa.
So for folks already living in Canada, what kind of questions are we talking about?
Well, they'll ask things like, where does your family live? Or where do your kids go to school? Even like, what do you do for fun here? Stuff like that.
So they want to know you're actually living there, not just using an address.
Exactly. They want to see that you're part of the community, that you actually like it there, that it's your home.
Interesting. And what about people applying from overseas?
For them, it's more about the business, like, why this province? Have you even been here? Do you have any connections here, family or business, things like that?
They want to know you have a good reason for picking that province.
Right. And that your business actually makes sense for that place, that you've thought about the market, how you'll fit in.
I noticed the guides even mentioned they might check things like online reviews or local business registrations just to make sure you're being honest.
They're thorough, that's for sure. They want to make sure everything adds up. So let's say the CPO has all the documents, they've asked you a million questions, and they're still not sure.
Uh-oh. What happens then?
That's when they send you something called a procedural fairness letter, a PFL.
A PFL. That doesn't sound good.
Well, it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world either. It basically lays out what they're not sure about and gives you a chance to explain, maybe give them more evidence. It's your chance to clear things up.
So you really need to make a good impression with that PFL.
Oh, yeah. This is where it helps to have a good immigration consultant or a lawyer on your side. They can help you write a really strong response.
Now, what about those CPO no templates we saw? They seem pretty interesting.
They are. One of them is all about, like, your personal history, work experience, business stuff, finances, all of that.
Trying to get a sense of who you are, basically.
Right. Another one focuses on whether you really intend to live in the province. They look for ties, like family, community involvement, maybe if you own property there.
So actions speak louder than words.
Exactly. And then there's one specifically for people who got a PFL. They'll look at your responses, see if you've addressed their concerns, if they believe you.
Wow. It's a pretty intense process.
It is. The PNP is all about making sure only the right people get in, the ones who really qualify, and who have a good chance of making it in Canada.
Well, I've definitely learned a lot from this deep dive. I feel like I have a much better understanding of how the PNP works, all the ins and outs.
It's definitely complex, but I think we've covered the main points. Anyone thinking about applying through this pathway should really do their homework.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to get help. Find a good immigration consultant or lawyer to guide you.
Exactly. These guides are a good start, but they're just a start. Stay informed, do your research, and believe in yourself and your business idea.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our PNP deep dive. Thanks for joining us.